If you are someone that has struggled with being present, being in the moment, and it could be because of ADHD or complex PTSD, and they tend to get misdiagnosed for each other because complex PTSD usually means you're outside of your body and you're in your mind and you're having ruminating thoughts and you're constantly hyper aware and in a fight or flight, which is a lot like ADHD. Think about it. ADHD is like your attention and your thoughts are very fast. They're like moving everywhere. They're scanning everything. There's definitely something to be said about that intersection. And I don't really know if it's genuinely ADHD or just complex PTSD that I have, but regardless, it doesn't matter. And for anyone watching this, don't get bogged down on the labels. Don't get bogged down on the labels. And trust me, there's a lot of people, a lot of organizations, a lot of things higher than us, or not higher than us, but a lot of things beyond us that are trying to convince us that we're certain labels and that sell us something. Sell us a therapy package, sell us some medication, sell us the solution that they think they have, when a large part of the solution is within you already. It's within me. So I'm someone that has always in my entire life struggled to be present because of the type of childhood that I had, because I've had to be in survival mode, because I mean, maybe based off my attributes, my personality, my biology, I'm also a person that tends to think very abstract. I like ideas. I like being in my head and thinking of all these things of history and philosophy and debates within my own mind. So that doesn't help uh, the environment that I was in, which, I escaped mentally. But I remember as a child, like literally driving in my mom's car and, I'm on the passenger seat looking outside and in the nature. And I would think of ways of like, okay, if I run away and escape and I dig a tunnel. Like I would come up with these fantasies like, I'll dig this tunnel and this is where I'll get my water and like this futuristic high tech type of thing where like I'll develop a tunnel like a bunker and this bunker is gonna have this and like how kids like to make their dream house sometimes like they like to be like in my generation when I was younger there was fuck, what was it called? Something crib. Fuck, I forgot. But like, it's this show back in MTV days where these really wealthy people would show off their crib or their house, right? And they had all these awesome things. So it was the same concept, but instead of like this mansion that I wanted, I'd be like, okay, this is how I will escape, and no one will ever find me, and I'll live off the land and all that stuff. And it makes sense now because as an adult, I'm super into that. Like maybe I should examine that and be like, maybe this comes from a wound, but sometimes a wound is a medicine. So either way, I remember doing that, like I remember doing that. And I don't know if that's normal. Let me know if you did anything like that. Like literally comment below because I don't know if this is something that everybody does, every boy or every child does, or maybe every traumatized child that wants to run away, or just a me thing, which I kind of doubt, but who knows. So I want to speak about that, about being present and how I've been able to develop my presence over time. It hasn't been an easy task, and sometimes I still catch myself, especially in this rat race. I live in America, and it's very easy to get in our heads and stress about money and all these different things that society is trying to push on you, and marketing is trying to push on you, and politics is trying to push on you, and the manosphere is trying to push on you, and all these things trying to push these things on you so you could buy into their narrative, so you can buy into their friend, and therefore buy from them, from those people. And I'm not here to say like buying is bad. I'm not here to be like, okay, like you shouldn't buy things at all. It's more like coming from a place of power and consciousness of what you actually want, of what is actually important to you. So the awareness is the first step. Do you catch yourself just daydreaming, or do you catch yourself constantly overthinking like about this problem and that problem, and you're escaping the now by doing that? The future doesn't exist yet, and the past doesn't exist either. I know that's a radical like notion, especially if like it's been difficult separating the ego, and trust me, the ego battles me out on this all the time. And that's what I've been practicing, meditation, and I've been practicing like separating myself from the ego and observing it. So I can imagine for someone, I'm not saying like I'm better or more ahead, but for someone that hasn't really engaged in that and is watching that will have a hard time understanding me or have a hard time agreeing, and that's okay. You're allowed to keep your opinion. Just keep an open mind, or keep as open of a mind as you can, and listen and do your best to listen to this video, because I think even if it doesn't resonate now, it might resonate later on, especially if we're going through a difficult time, especially if we're stuck in our mind, in our loops of thought. And that's very difficult when you have CPTSD. It's very difficult being in a mind that feels dangerous and being in a body that feels like it's in danger. And that's a primary thing that I have noticed with people that have complex PTSD, is that we feel like we're constantly in danger. We feel like we need to be outside of our body, and we are in our brain, in our mind. And our mind is a nightmare. It's creating this anxiety, it's creating this pattern that's very difficult to get out of when we're in it. And trust me, because I was in it pretty deep for like a month. So I created this presence. I got out of it. Like, obviously, I got triggered or relapsed or whatever you want to call it, and I got stuck in this loop. And then I'm out of it. I had a trip. I went to El Salvador for a little over a week, and it was enough to break that pattern of like I was doing the same things every day and thinking the same things, and it was just very difficult to break out of that because certain triggers get you back into that loop. And it was a bunch of factors, but coming back from that, I've have an immense amount of gratitude. I feel a lot more present. I feel a lot more in flow. I feel a lot more powerful. Ironically enough, like when I'm not worrying about all the things that I want to achieve and I want to do and I need to do, I feel more powerful. I feel more conviction. I feel more in myself. And my ego is situated in a way that is actually like healthy, that is working for me, not against me. So for a person with CPTSD and is on the spiritual path, and oftentimes that will happen because the spiritual path is often the answer that we're like, that will help or that we feel will help. It's a little bit tricky because, a lot of spiritual teachers be kill your ego death and all that. And there is a bit of an ego death that must be undergone. But at the same time, it's very important to have a healthy ego and develop that ego because we haven't been able to develop it. So what I've done in my life is, as difficult as it is, and it drives you a little bit crazy, it's like having the awareness of the ego and knowing, all right, this is a video game. This is a simulation. This is something that I'm the avatar. This body is the avatar. These thoughts, these feelings are all like the programming and the biology behind it, and whatever it is, generational stuff that is coming up, that I'm clearing and transmuting. And that is alchemy, right? Turning a base metal into gold. And we're turning ourselves, our souls, who we are, from base metal to gold. Like, that is a process of alchemy. And through that individuation process, you actually like dissolve your ego naturally, and then at the same time integrate your ego. It's like this weird, like, it's this weird paradox where you're dissolving your ego and you're separating yourself from your ego, and you're like creating an ego death, or you're going through an ego death, but at the same time you're solidifying your ego and integrating your ego, and your ego is working with you. So I advocate for that middle ground, not so much of just completely killing the ego, because a lot of bypassing comes from that, and not acknowledging our shadow side and not acknowledging the body and honoring who we are. It's like demon hand, Buddha heart. And this is something like a Shaolin monks say. So have the demon hand, because they have the masculine sword or whatever, and the Buddha heart. So like you have that compassion and empathy and love, and that love is going to keep you anchored. And in that case, it's like the lover archetype in Jungian psychology. So you have the warrior, the king, the magician, and then the lover, and they all work together to create an integrated man. So one book I highly recommend anyone to read is A Power of Now. And it's a book that I started reading a long time ago, like about a year and a half ago. And I stopped because it kind of pissed me off and I didn't really understand it, or I didn't want to understand it. Because I was like, I'm not at this stage. Like, I don't want to do all this because I want to succeed and make money. And I was so driven by my goals and what I thought I needed that I rejected a lot of it. Like, I believed it, like I knew it was right, but I was like, this isn't the phase of my life. So, and I might have been right, like we all have different phases of life. Like, that's one thing. Like, it's okay I felt like that. And it's okay if you feel like this is not for you either. Like, wherever you are in your journey is a part of your journey, is a part of the hero's journey. One of the most powerful things we can do is exercise gratitude. I've come back from El Salvador, and the amount of gratitude I have for things that I took for granted, that I was a brat about, that I just didn't take the time to like really be grateful. I'm so grateful now. The amount of wealth and opportunity that we have, and they'll fuel me. It doesn't come from a place of ego, but rather, well, there's these opportunities, and some people don't have that, and I'm going to do it. And not because like I feel bad or because I feel I need to do it, but because I want to. Like, it's there. Why not? Let's do it. This gratitude thing can be difficult because sometimes we say, oh, I'm grateful for this, and not really feel it, but really feel it in your heart. Think about it. But beyond thinking about it, really feel it. Because there's something beyond the mind when you go down here and start to feel it. And you could do this while you're meditating. Like I do this when I'm meditating. For the most part, I do a mindfulness meditation, but naturally I start to feel from the base of my spine and going up, okay, I'm grounded on this earth. Because yeah, I'm very grateful for this earth that I'm on. Like right now, like grounding is so good for me. And it's healing me. Really feel it in your body, in who you are and where you're at, and that you're breathing this air and this oxygen is giving you life. And literally, you're breathing life. You are breathing life. Can you imagine, like, out of this entire universe, you get to live. You get to live and be conscious of it. Like you are conscious of being alive. That's mind blowing when we think about it. Like, what are the chances of that? That you right now in this moment are present and you're conscious and you're part of God and you're part of consciousness and your consciousness expressing itself. So it's very, in that regard, it's easier to be more grateful. You know, in many ways, it could be the simplest thing. It could be like gratitude for the water that I'm drinking, gratitude for the water that's running, gratitude for this grass uh, that's providing nutrients to the fucking squirrels. I don't know, not squirrels. I don't know, whatever eats the grass, the cows. I don't know, whatever it is. Like in moments of eating, not just meditating, moments of eating, and this is something that I'm a little bit bad at, but I'm working on. Is instead of like fucking eating really quickly, I tend to eat quickly and just shoving it down and not even appreciating it. Be like intentional about what you're eating and how good it tastes and where it comes from and the person that had to prepare it and the person who cooked it and the person who, like, you know, had to butcher that cow or that pig or that chicken, or the person that had to pick those fruits or those vegetables, or, you know, the fact that the fruit and the vegetable actually grew out of the ground and into that, or the cow that had to give its life for you to sustain itself. So it's like this whole process of like being very intentional with your bowl of food and eating it. And this is going to go to you. This is going to go to your body. It's going to feed your muscles. If you're weightlifting, if you're getting stronger, it's going to feed your nails and your hair and your eyes. It's going to feed the proteins in your cells and the fats in your cells. And it's going to feed the neurons and everything in your body. All your systems are being nourished by this food. It's being alchemized, is being turned from one energy into a different source of energy. How crazy is that? So it's these things that we simply take for granted. And in that state of gratitude, we're able to be more present with what is in the moment. So it's a really great, powerful practice for anybody, for anyone. Like, more gratitude will make you, one, more happier, more present. And it'll also just make you a better person. It'll ground you, it'll make you present and conscious of the decisions you're making. Even better, let's say someone tries to piss you off or someone starts yelling at you because they're road rage and they're unhappy and whatever it is, it won't even phase you at that point because you're just like, you can't even understand that person's state of mind anymore. You could almost feel compassion, like that they're in such a stressed state that they have to react in that way. And at the same time, be like, well, if I was in that person's shoes, I'd probably react in the same way. And that's shadow work, actually. That's looking within and seeing a part of yourself in that other person because they feel so much self-hatred, or maybe they feel so much anger because they hate their life, whatever it is. Not giving people excuses for shitty behavior, all right? Like, I'm not trying to be some like soy boy type of guy, like, oh, peace and love. It is all peace and love. Ultimately, it is all peace and love, but you have to know when to take out that sword, right? To strike someone down if they really, like, if someone comes at you, you'll know to defend yourself and not be like, well, I'm the spiritual guy, so I'm just gonna let them kill me. No. It doesn't work that way. So don't mistake my peace and love right now, and my gratitude and my compassion and doing the shadow work, because in that instance, nothing, you lose nothing by allowing that person to just be, to let them be in their own rage, in their own unhappiness. If anything, you gain from it because now you're at peace. You're okay. You can observe your own reactions to it, and you can observe that person's reactions to it, and you have power because of that. So another practice in presence is actually noticing where your states of flow is. If you know what flow state is, and if you don't, I'll explain it really briefly. But flow state is when you're in that moment where past and future doesn't exist. You're just in the now. You're just in the zone. It could be playing basketball, it could be playing an instrument, it could be writing, it could be rapping. It could be a lot for a lot of people like me, a daredevils. Like I'm an adrenaline junkie, or I used to be, and I think I understand why. Is because when we're in that moment, like let's say we're bungee jumping or we're in a roller coaster, there are no thoughts, there are no feelings, there's nothing. It's just emptiness in our brain, and that's flow. Like you're just so in the flow that you do your best work when you're in a flow state. So noticing when you're in those flow states starts to see the patterns of when do you get into that zone. That's where your genius tends to be. And when you're in more flow, you're more present. By naturally, it just you're more present. You're in flow. So ask yourself those things and start to observe like these patterns within yourself. Where is it that I feel this flow? And naturally, you'll be more present. So I'm going to wrap up this video, and I hope it's been helpful for you. If you found this helpful, let me know down in the comments below if you have any other tips on how to gain presence or be more present and be out of our thoughts and out of CPTSD naturally. Please like, please subscribe. I will see you in the next video.